J.J. Abrams, Paramount Pictures, and Bad Robot have teamed up to produce a live-action adaptation of Your Name. The news sparked an immediate groan from many in the anime community. Given the history of Hollywood's forays into anime, it's no wonder fans don't want to see another of its most popular properties brought to life. What is it about these live-action adaptations that always seems to fail? Why do many fans seem convinced Your Name will be no different? Let's look at the recent string of live-action anime. Ghost in the Shell, Death Note, Fullmetal Alchemist. 3 beloved franchises, 3 staples of anime, 3 2017 live-action adaptations. Ghost in the Shell, mired in a casting controversy every step of the way, bombed at the box office to a tune of $170 million USD worldwide, 40.5 in the States and Canada, out of an estimated production and marketing cost of $250 million. Despite, or perhaps because of, its A-list lead, the film only managed 3rd in its opening weekend, lagging behind, ironically enough, DreamWorks' The Boss Baby and Disney's own live-action adaptation of Beauty and the Beast. Critics and audiences alike granted the film its cool visuals, but bemoaned it failed to capture the spirit of its classic source. Even without the hoopla of a big-budget blockbuster, Netflix's Death Note made waves upon its release, but consensus lamented director Adam Wingard's reimagining of the original, saying it didn't feel like Death Note. The criticism didn't stop there, as Wingard deleted his Twitter account in the face of death threats and constant harassment for having the temerity to touch their beloved work, a gross but sadly typical instance of fans taking fandom too far. Finally, Fullmetal Alchemist will receive the live-action treatment when the Japanese production premieres later this year. It's the only one of these 3 not to spark whitewashing concerns by bringing in a Japanese cast, despite this story actually taking place in a European-styled setting. I bring this up only to illustrate the difficulty inherent to porting characters from the page to real life, from one culture to another. Time will tell what sort of work Fullmetal Alchemist 2017 offers, but based on trailer footage, my concerns going in are largely the same as all these other live-action anime adaptations, Your Name included. That it will stray too far from the well-regarded source material, right? No. I'm worried it will stick too close. I have a problem with the way people judge adaptations, particularly in the anime community. If it isn't a one-to-one translation of the original work, regardless of how those differences affect it, then it's a bad adaptation. Brotherhood is better than 03 because it's more faithful to Arakawa's manga. But that's not what an adaptation is for. Its success or failure is not defined by what it doesn't change, but what it does. This belief that an adaptation must be faithful, above all else, stifles new creative vision. I love it when an adaptation showcases the voices of the new creative minds behind it, over an echo of the original. It's certainly the bigger risk, potentially alienating the one established fanbase you already have, but it also affords the work room to reach new audiences, cover new ground. This is not a condemnation of adaptations that do follow their source as closely as possible, while adjusting to a new medium. Rather, my effort to underscore how there's nothing inherently better about that approach. We shouldn't get wrapped up in this false dichotomy where an adaptation is either good or bad based on how many filler episodes it has. I want to reach the point where fans don't look at the words anime original content like a swear. Which finally brings me back to live action. Take a peek at any anime forum nowadays and you're sure to run into a thread about how Netflix Note shamefully spat in the face of its forebears. So-and-so was supposed to die, they toned down the cat and mouse dynamic, L was supposed to be smarter. Question. Supposed to... based on what? This was not Tsugumi Oba's manga, nor Tetsuro Araki's anime. This is Adam Wingard's Death Note. As such, Netflix Note inches closer to success in one key area where others of its ilk have failed. This film is undoubtedly its own thing. Live-action adaptations routinely fail to me because they hopelessly attempt to offer the same experience as their parent production over becoming something new. Problem is, they're no longer in their source's medium. What worked there won't necessarily work here. Lost in all this debate over the merits of a faithful adaptation is one simple truth. Animation is animated for a reason. Productions don't exist within a specific medium arbitrarily. There's always a purpose, something only that medium can offer. A lot depends on the type of story being told. Japan has produced countless live-action adaptations of anime, ranging anywhere from My Sonikoku to Attack on Titan. Your mileage may vary, but the more successful tend to lean on human stories. Anime with extraordinary worlds and larger-than-life characters often fall flat when ported over to live-action because of the limitations inherent to portraying the unreal with the real. More grounded anime, however, naturally lend themselves to it, benefiting from the personal, intimate connection a human portrayal can provide. It's also worth noting Japanese live-action doesn't have a cultural barrier to cross, a significant hurdle in many of these Hollywood adaptations. At the opposite end of the spectrum, we have anime that only work precisely because they are animated. I can't process how a live-action revolutionary girl Utena would work in the same way I balk at the thought of an Oyasumi Punpun anime. The nature of these works is so fundamentally tied to the medium they're in, to move them would change their essence completely. So some anime lend themselves well to live action, while others are inextricably linked to the medium. But what about those in the middle? Works that don't necessarily call for it, but in the right hands, could conceivably work. The heart of the issue lies here. These are the anime Hollywood wants to adapt. Big-name franchises with a massive pre-existing audience like Death Note and Ghost in the Shell, with more and more, such as Your Name, seemingly on the way. When anime become live action, they lose the spirit that made them anime in the first place. That in and of itself is not the problem. The issue comes in when the adaptation does nothing to fill that gap. It creates the sensation that something feels off. Think the uncanny valley in reverse. It looks like anime, sounds like anime, but isn't anime. It hasn't utilized its new medium. I've limited my scope to anime thus far, but this discussion applies to animation at large. Look down the list of Western live-action adaptations of Western animation, and again you'll find far too many successes and failures to draw any sweeping conclusions. For every 2016 Jungle Book, there's a 1994 Flintstones or Cat in the Hat. Regardless, the trend shows no signs of stopping. Take Disney, for instance. Off the heels of Beauty and the Beast success, the company already has 5 more live-action adaptations planned over the next 3 years in Dumbo, Aladdin, The Lion King, Mulan, and Peter Pan, with more on the way beyond that. It leaves me wondering why. What's the purpose of porting these stories over to a medium that isn't suited for them, and even if it is, may not add anything? Is it creative bankruptcy? Are we really out of ideas? Or maybe the allure of a safe, assured moneymaker? In the case of anime, some say these adaptations will get more people interested in the medium. Western audiences will respond more to live action, so if we bring the anime to them through live action, they might want to see more. This is the cause of a lot of adaptations, right? Anime themselves are often produced with the goal of boosting sales for their manga or light novel. But anime and manga's audiences are already by and large the same. Convincing people to switch to a medium they're either unaware of or actively avoid is a different monster. Anime and manga on the whole are far more similar as mediums than anime live action. For one, they're both drawn. They have a similar tone and style and appeal to similar audiences. Besides, have you considered the best way to get people interested in anime is through animation? Second, anime and manga are both Japanese. Beyond the differences in the mediums themselves, there's the influence of the culture in which they're produced. Hollywood adaptations of works with important roots in Japanese culture have to reconcile that, which most often leads to their Americanizing. Assuming Abrams and company go this route with Your Name, the film's deeply held ties in Japanese ritual, tradition, and culture will be lost. The film is fundamentally about the juxtaposition of Japan's urban and rural cultural experiences. Hollywood could recapture this by utilizing the societal divides in America, but that's almost assuredly not a risk they're willing to take. The importance of that loss in cultural meaning can't be understated. Finally, animation adds whole new dimensions to manga in motion and sound. That doesn't make animation inherently better. After all, you lose the experience that could only be found in the manga, but the new medium adds value to the work. What does live action add to animation? The answer may be less obvious, but think on what makes live action attractive in the first place. That's what these adaptations need to use. Adapting an animated work into live action necessitates stripping it of the artistic spirit that made it what it was. The only way it could work is if you replace that with a new essence that warrants live action. Don't try to capture the look so much, it doesn't work. These worlds, stories, and characters were animated for a purpose. It's incredibly naive to think you can port them over and still have them be the same. We need to stop trying to translate anime into live action and genuinely adapt it. Even then, some stories don't need to be told in any other format. I could throw Your Name into this category given the biggest draw to me was showcasing the spectacular visual power of animation, but there's other strengths there that could work given the right hands. Either way, you have to make it something new, and not just from a setting or plot perspective. If you take animation, strip it of everything special about it, and slap an A-list celebrity on the cover, what do you have? Ghost in the Shell 2017 didn't become something new. It was filled with cheap moments clearly trying to replicate the original, failing to do so every time. It was the same schlock you could find in any random theater here on any given day. While I can't say I'm particularly fond of it, Netflix Note at least took a concerted effort towards crafting its own experience. It used the medium to its advantage in focusing on the campy nature of the series, which live action brings out well. With the news of the live-action Your Name adaptation, I fear the cycle will only repeat. Again, I wonder what of value the medium could add to the animated product. Again, I ask why this is necessary, especially considering how much success the anime already saw worldwide. When, if ever, will Hollywood come to respect animation as a medium versus an opportunity to make a quick buck? I realize an anime fan calling live-action adaptations bad is possibly the coldest take imaginable, but understand it has nothing to do with their faithfulness. As soon as people start consistently creating inventive live-action adaptations of anime that still understand why the original worked, I'll be all for it. But as long as they keep trying to do the same thing but with real people, it's going to leave me with the same question. Why?